But predominantly scissors, because Paul's hair texture is a little bit on the finer side. And he said he likes things to be really choppy and disconnected and kind of have that edge to it, shorter on the sides. We did have a chat about Paul's hair looking good like this. So I've kind of positioned it in a way where it's kind of inspiring me. Like, yes, he can kind of flip it over to the side. So I want to utilize the things that I really like about Paul's hair, and then look at kind of just what's left over and kind of get rid of that. So we're not going to go very extreme and short, no kind of baby bang situation happening for Paul today. So it is a little bit of a softer version of kind of the masculine and modern day mullet. So we're going to keep length through the back, shorter on the sides, and then kind of that consistent, almost a, dare I say, classic, you know, where it's short to long on the top somewhat. But the reason why it's going to look a little more punk rock than that is because there's going to be so much disconnection through the sides and the back. So we want to make sure that we're sectioning the haircut with exactly the different functionality of the haircut. So taking the functionality into consideration and where this hair falls. I can see that some of this is going to want to push over to the side, but I like that. So you want to think about the radial section from just behind the ear all the way across into behind the ear. And that's going to separate out the front from that back section. So I'm just going to loosely clip this up because that's why for a dry haircut where I want to see all of like the things that make his hair unique. Right, now we have this whole back to work with, and that's where we're going to kind of maintain a little bit more length. But we want to break that down a little bit further. But I really guarantee you, once you really get into the habit of taking all of these sections first and you really think through your haircut before you execute it, it definitely helps the entire process. Okay, so I'm just looking at where this all naturally kind of wants to part off. Thinking about exactly where I want the lengths of his hair. Because believe it or not, typically I would go in where I want the shortest hair to be. So I would go in his sides first. So however much length that we keep in the back, I want it to have this like really nice balance to it. So for me, it's really important that I don't overly try to perfect anything, you know, like pull it down, adding tension, cutting, and getting that really precise line is so tempting always, you know, because especially like the perfectionist is in you is going to want to do that. But for Paul, I'm kind of just looking at where his hair naturally, see how it really kind of like dips in right here in his nape. So there is a rhyme and a reason for it, even though it looks really organic, me just picking up this section in the back. And I'm going to leave a little bit of extra length to where maybe we could go in and cut a little bit more off later, but I'm going to twist and then open, close until I establish that length right there. I'm going to actually cut it right where it lives, creating a bit of almost like a circular, like a round shape, right? Cutting it right where it lives. I want this to have almost a nice triangular shape, but I want it to connect to here. But I'll be cutting it at a concave so that it gets nice and short here for when it connects to this crown area. And I'm not going to worry about if there's little bits of hairs that hang over the perimeter yet. I'm already loving like how that's kind of hugging, and it feels like his hair like has some like fullness and thickness and shape to it here, which is really cool. So we're already seeing it kind of come to life, which is why I love cutting his hair dry. And I told him, come with it like right when you like the way it's styling. Like, you know, like if you like it when it's almost like a day dirty. When I'm doing these kind of haircuts that I just want to naturally fall into place, I'm like, come with it exactly like how you like the texture to feel. And then that way I can see exactly where his calyx are, exactly how his hair is behaving and all of the things. So that way I can cut it to something that is actually going to behave similar to how it does today. So what we need to know about a square shape is that means that all of this is going to get over directed all the way back to where that square shape was. So that's just basically for putting in your concave layer in through the back. To that square, open, close, doing those kind of scooping motions. I got to my second knuckle, letting it drop out. Okay, and that leaves us tons of room to go in shorter here. But I want to decide later exactly how disconnected I want this section to be from this section. Sometimes people will connect it all the way through, but I think for Paul, I'm gonna want these like really fun pieces here for it to feel a lot longer here. So repeat that on the other side, and then I'll see you when the whole back is done. It's a little bit of a concave because we over directed those front pieces forward, just making sure to keep that length there. But we've got all these nice short bits happening through here that are going to connect nicely to his crown area. So from here, I'm going to just leave the perimeter until I cut her sides, and then I'll come through and finish the entire underneath before I move on to the top. So now I want to establish what I want through the lengths here before I connect this in through the back. And the reason I cut with a lot of strength here is because that's the finer area of the hair. So every single section is getting over directed forward, meaning I'm preserving length in the back. Dropping it down, and you can see how it's going from shorter to gradually a little longer, and just slightly connect it through, leaving it a little longer than the section underneath it, so you can see that my guide is here and I'm cutting it just a bit longer. And now you can see I'm starting to incorporate those sides from the back all the way forward, and now I can even connect the same texture that I used in the back through the side, just sliding my finger away as I'm cutting those hairs. And then you could come in here and decide what you want for your perimeter. But I'm going to cut the other side first and then take a re-look at that whole perimeter afterward. And bringing my final section all the way up, passing that section and creating that same texture that I did in the back. Feels balanced, even though you're creating something that is a little bit, has some kind of irregular shape to it. You still want to create balance from the left to the right. Just feel for balance and kind of just gauge where I want this top hair to sit. So I'm going to be taking a diagonal back section across the crown. And that is another area where you can just completely leave it up to you how much you want that, to be longer in the front. That's like very much up to your own artistic approach of how short you want this, how long you want that to be disconnected, or if you want that even shorter, it'll definitely feel more like a mullet. And I'm going to leave some length in the front. So now that I get to the front, I kind of just part this down the center, even though that's not how he's going to wear it, and just create a bit of a guide from the side because I want to see exactly where this hair is going to fall. Because what I did was I created kind of that convex layer so I can see the hair behind as a guide, pulling it straight back. And so much of it is going to be up to your own artistry and up to your own idea of how you want to interpret this look and this haircut and what you would want that to look like. Yeah, and just making sure that it kind of has like a bit of a blend in, and it doesn't have anything that looks like, oh, that's not supposed to be like that. If you, like when you flip your hair one direction or the other, does it always change? His curl pattern on this side, then on the other side, which is really cool because he's gonna have a lot of fun just like messing with his own curl pattern. Grit it up a little bit, make it a little messy, but actually I think it has like a very like just kind of handsome rock and roll look to it. Yeah, that's what I really like about utilizing someone's natural kind of hair oils and also their kind of the product, building up the product as you're cutting, because then you kind of can see the style more or less coming to life. It's just kind of tailoring it until it like really works with their with their wave.